You are not awake, at least, not yet. In the hush of a dream, you feel the weight of your body vanish. Wings carry you over a sea of blossoms. The air tastes of spring. Time is meaningless. You are not a person. You are a butterfly. Then, you wake. But the question strikes like a flash of lightning. Am I Zhuang Zhou, who dreamt I was a butterfly? Or a butterfly, now dreaming I am Zhuang Zhou? This is no simple riddle. For over 2,000 years, it has haunted poets, mystics, and emperors. It comes from the Zhuangzi, a work born in an age of war and wonder, when Chinese thought was being forged in the fires of chaos. Zhuangzi was not merely a philosopher. He was a trickster, a poet, a master of the absurd who dared to question the nature of reality itself. And in this tale, he invites us into a world where identity is as fragile as a dream, and where the truest awakening might be to never wake at all. China, 2,300 years ago. The land is carved into warring kingdoms. Smoke coils above burning fields. Iron weapons glint under a pitiless sun. The Zhou dynasty, once the heartbeat of order, has fractured. Kings rise and fall in the span of a lifetime, each claiming the mandate of heaven as rivers run red. But while swords cut the air, words cut deeper. This is the Warring States period, an age as violent as it was brilliant. In the shadow of fortresses, minds ignite. Wandering philosophers roam from court to court, their voices competing in what history would call the 100 schools of thought. The Confucians preach order and ritual, promising harmony through duty. The Mohists urge universal love and frugality. The legalists demand iron laws and the crushing of dissent. And then, there are the Taoists, who turn from the noise, smile at the absurdity of it all, and write poetry about rivers, clouds, and the mysteries between heaven and earth. Taoism's roots rest on two towering figures: Laozi, the shadowed sage of the Tao Te Ching, terse, cryptic, eternal, and Zhuangzi, the wanderer, the dreamer, the trickster who turned philosophy into stories. Where Laozi carved his wisdom into stone-like aphorisms, Zhuangzi painted his with laughter and paradox. He gave us no commandments, no laws, only visions, talking skulls, giant fish that became birds, a butterfly that may have been a man. His book, the Zhuangzi, is no dry scroll to be dissected. It is a moving river, one you step into, knowing you will be carried somewhere you did not expect to go. Somewhere in the state of Song, 2,300 years ago. A man walks away from the capital. The road is dusty, the air thick with cicadas. Behind him, the noise of politics fades. The quarrels of ministers, the clinking of bronze in courtly halls. Ahead, only the wind and the open countryside. This man's name is Zhuang Zhou, though the world will remember him as Zhuangzi. We know little about him with certainty, and perhaps that is fitting for someone who questioned whether certainty itself could ever exist. Tradition says he lived in the 4th century BCE, in what is now Hainan province. At some point, he served as a minor official, maybe a scribe, maybe a magistrate. But the machinery of power quickly soured in his mind. Then came the story that still makes him famous. The king of Chu, impressed by his brilliance, offered him high office, perhaps even the post of prime minister. Zhuangzi smiled, and then he told a story. Have you seen the sacrificial ox? Its horns plated in gold, its hooves wrapped in silk, paraded in solemn ceremony, until it reaches the altar. Once used, it will never return to the fields. I would rather be a turtle, alive and dragging my tail in the mud, than a dead ox in a golden cart. The king's messengers left empty-handed. Zhuangzi returned to his wandering. This was not stubbornness nor eccentricity for its own sake. It was the core of his philosophy, that chasing titles, fame, and status was a sickness of the mind, an attachment to illusions. True freedom, he believed, lay in stepping beyond the world's definitions, into the wild, ungoverned flow of the Dao. But what is this Dao? And why did Zhuangzi believe it was worth giving up everything to follow it? There is a path, but it has no name. In Chinese, it is called Dao, the way. The word can mean a road, a method, a guiding principle. But in Zhuangzi's hands, it becomes something stranger, deeper, and impossible to capture. The Tao is not a god to be worshipped, nor a law to be obeyed. It is the uncarved block, the wind in the bamboo, the river that flows without knowing its destination. It is the pulse of reality before we carve it into this and that, right and wrong. Zhuangzi understood a danger. Once you name something, you begin to limit it. Language makes distinctions, and distinctions create walls. But the Tao is the space before walls exist. This is why Zhuangzi avoided giving us neat lists or commandments. Instead, he told stories, playful, absurd, profound. Stories that invite us to experience a shift in perception rather than to agree with a point. He tells of Kun, the giant fish who transforms into Peng, a bird so vast its wings shade the sky, flying beyond the clouds. He tells of a man who forgets his own body and merges with the universe. He tells of Butcher Ding, whose knife never dulls because he cuts along the natural lines of the ox, moving with the grain of life, not against it. These are not fairy tales. They are mirrors, showing us a world where identity is not fixed, where boundaries dissolve, where existence is less like a battlefield and more like a dream. And within that dream, perhaps, lies the freedom Zhuangzi sought. One night, Zhuang Zhou fell asleep and became a butterfly. In the dream, he flitted among the flowers, weightless and free. He was not a man pretending to be a butterfly. He was a butterfly, truly and entirely, knowing nothing of Zhuang Zhou. Then he woke, and there he was, Zhuang Zhou again. But something had shifted. He asked himself, was I Zhuang Zhou, who dreamed he was a butterfly? Or am I now a butterfly, dreaming I am Zhuang Zhou? Between man and butterfly, there must be a difference. And yet, where exactly is it? This simple parable carries one of the most unsettling questions in all philosophy. What is real? Is the waking world more true than the dream? And how can we be sure of who or what we really are? Western philosophers would grapple with similar puzzles centuries later. Descartes' evil demon, modern simulation theories. But Zhuangzi's genius lies in what he does not do. He does not chase certainty. Instead, he invites us to doubt, gently, playfully, until our fixed identities loosen and dissolve. If the self is fluid, if reality is dreamlike, then perhaps our boundaries, between life and death, truth and illusion, self and other, are illusions too. And this is not frightening. It is liberation. For if life is a dream, then we can move through it lightly, like the butterfly, unburdened, free to drift wherever the wind carries us. A man once came to console Zhuangzi after the death of his wife. He found the philosopher sitting on the ground, drumming a pot and singing. "How can you be so heartless?" the man asked. Zhuangzi replied, "When she first died, I grieved, but then I reflected. Before she was born, she had no form. Then she gained form, and with form came life. Now she has returned to the great transformation. To resist that is to resist the seasons themselves." In Zhuangzi's eyes, life and death were not opposites. They were simply phases of the same endless process, the Qi Wu, the equality of things. The lines we draw between beautiful and ugly, rich and poor, success and failure, are conveniences of the human mind, not truths of the universe. The mountain and the valley are made of the same earth. The ocean wave and the foam are made of the same water. and the you of 10 years ago is already a stranger to the you of today. To live in harmony with the Tao is to let go of the urge to cling, to sort, to rank. When we stop resisting change, we stop suffering from it. When we see that everything is part of the same current, we no longer fear where the river flows. For the sage, life is not a battlefield of opposites. It is a single, flowing whole, and in that whole, nothing is higher or lower. Everything simply is. The word Zhuangzi loved most was yu, to wander. But this was no aimless drifting. It was Xiao Yao Yu, free and easy wandering, the art of moving through life unbound by walls, rules, and the weight of identity. Imagine walking with no destination, yet arriving everywhere you need to be. Imagine acting without calculation, yet always in harmony with the moment. In Zhuangzi's tales, freedom is not found in the throne room or the marketplace, but in the small, unguarded moments of living. A hunchbacked man catches cicadas with such grace that they land in his hand as if they chose him. His body sways like a branch in the wind. His mind holds nothing but the next movement. A wheelwright tells a nobleman that the words of sages are dust. The living truth, he says, cannot be captured on a page. It can only be shaped in the hands, felt in the body, lived in the breath. In these stories, the self is not a prison to be fortified, but a mask to be set down. When you stop clinging to the idea of who you are, you can move like water, dance like fire, drift like a cloud. For Zhuangzi, this is the highest form of wisdom, to roam through the world without edges, without armor, without fear. The butterfly wanders this way. So does the fish in the river. So can we. 2,000 years have passed, and still the butterfly flies. Zhuangzi's words have traveled far beyond the bamboo slips of ancient China. In his own time, he was a thorn in the side of Confucians, a skeptic of legalists, and a kindred spirit to poets. In later centuries, Taoist monks would chant his verses, painters would brush his images, and hermits would carry his book into the mountains as their only companion. In the Tang dynasty, emperors read him in secret. In the Song, poets wove his parables into their lines. In the Ming and Qing, scholars found in him a quiet rebellion, a way to live freely under rigid hierarchies. His influence seeped into Zen Buddhism, crossed oceans to inspire Western philosophers, and found strange echoes in modern science. Physicists speak of uncertainty, psychologists of fluid identity, artists of dissolving boundaries, all shadows of the butterfly's wings. And so we return to the question, was Zhuang Zhou the man who dreamed he was a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming he is Zhuang Zhou? The beauty is that the answer doesn't matter. Zhuangzi's gift is not certainty, but release, the loosening of our grip on truth so that we can hold wonder instead. He reminds us that the self is not a fortress, but a flowing river, that the world's borders are drawn in sand, not stone, that life is not a problem to be solved, but a song to be heard. Perhaps the butterfly is still dreaming. Perhaps we are inside that dream. Perhaps there is no inside or outside at all. What matters is this: the wings are moving, the air is warm, and we too can drift, free, easy, and unafraid, into the endless sky. If you've enjoyed wandering with Zhuangzi, you may want to meet another mind who shaped China's path: Confucius. Click here to watch What Confucius Really Taught About Power, or explore the philosophy playlist to keep your journey going. The path is endless, and it's yours to walk.